Hi everyone, this is Huma, and for the commentary on the 38th chapter of Mean, I thought I'd do a little something different. So for the very first time, I am using my kind of fuzzy webcam on my new computer, despite Lissy Love's warnings that webcams only lead to lascivious, scandalous, horrible things. Hopefully this one won't. Fingers crossed. Anyway, I thought that I would do something a little different for this commentary for the 38th chapter because obviously something very significant happened. We got the reveal, which was what the whole story had been building up to. It was basically the scene that I started the story with, like my conception of it. I just saw Jason and Elizabeth, for some reason, standing outside their son's room, and he was a full-grown man, and I saw Cameron with them, and I was seeing this play out in my head, and I'm like, well, what does Cameron say at this point? And then what he said was, if you're, worried about this, you should know that Jake has known that you were his father since he was 6 years old. So don't let that stop you. And that was exactly what he said in my head, and that kind of was the starting point for this story. I was like, okay, well, why is he in the hospital? How did he find out when he was 6 years old? Why is Cameron the one to do this? Blah, blah, blah. So that kind of got me started on writing the outline. Mean was actually a story that I promised myself I would never write, and we see how well that worked out. Okay, so in the 38th chapter we finally got all of this stuff happening, and of course, we see a lot of bitterness coming out from a lot of these kids that we've never really seen comment on this before. We've got Amalia probably being the biggest one, where she was just steamed, just furious and raving, and really pushing Cameron to fix this because she was obviously the most frustrated one. We saw Michael being the most proactive that we've ever seen him being in just wanting to get tested, wanting to have the injections that would increase the production of red blood cells in his body so that his marrow would be most helpful to the person who would receive the transplant. We saw him drag Molly into this, and of course we know by now Molly doesn't need anyone to drag her into anything, but that was fun. We saw Cameron really taking a stand. He's kind of the easygoing one, but I'm very careful with that image because I don't think at this point who he is, where he's come from, would cause him to be easygoing. Just he's a little more, he's not as high-strung, but he's very cautious, and we saw him being the one to come out and do this and kind of own up to it in a place, in a situation, in a way where Jake really couldn't do that. So we see a lot of the kids' reactions to this, and that for me was fun. I did try to tamp that down a bit because it was obvious that the kids were all there at the same time, which was unusual just given, their ages and where they are in their careers. Like I said, Michael lives in London now, so it was just a coincidence or whatever that he was home while Jake got sick. But of course, from an author's standpoint, I wanted every single nerd in this story in the same room when it happened. So hence, we've got some clues as to why I plotted Cameron being a doctor. This was just one of the reasons, because it was very convenient, because he would be in the hospital working with his mother, working with Robin and Patrick and Nadine. Johnny Zakara pretty much follows his wife around like a puppy sometimes, so he's there, whenever she calls. Molly works with Cameron in the hospital, so it was very convenient to have her around. Morgan is still involved in town politics, so on a very, very local level, so he's not, making trips to DC or even to Manhattan at this point yet. He's still involved in the mob business, so he's in Port Charles, so it was easy to have him stick around, that sort of thing. I tried to kind of downplay their Three Musketeers, only more. I tried to kind of downplay that just a bit because it struck me as corny. Like, all these people rallying around this kid while he's injured, it was too heartwarming. And I don't really like heartwarming that much anymore. So I kind of downplayed that a bit, and I think it worked well. It showed more of like a canvas interlocking feel rather than, rah-rah Jake throughout the whole thing, which would have just nauseated me. Let's see, what else? The thing that Edward said, everyone knows how much I love my scheming Edward Quartermain. The thing that Edward said about Michael having no biological connection to Jake, obviously that's not true. But you've probably noticed throughout the story, I've really severely downplayed the biological connection between Michael, Morgan, and Jake. they have, I believe, the same great-grandfather, so Luke and Bobby's father, you know, that's where they all converge family tree-wise. But I've really tried to downplay that just because, well, heck, let's face it, we get enough of Jake is a Spencer on the show. We don't need any more of that. We get enough Carly running around, so I just tried to downplay that and kind of isolate him and Morgan and Michael from the Spencer side, whereas Morgan is shown as the Corinthos Jax character. He grew up with Jax, but Sonny's his dad. Michael is straight up Jax's son, you know, following in his footsteps, but he's also got the old, you know, the Quartermaine old blood, old money kind of feel to him. And Jake is kind of like the vagabond, being Jason Morgan's unclaimed son, so one step further from Jason when he divorced himself from his family. But he's also got the Quartermaine blood, he's got some of the Spencer blood, less so, obviously, than alleged, but still. And he's got the Weber blood, so that's cool. Parents' reactions was something fun. Basically, Carly's all about protecting Jason, and Robin, surprisingly, as Carly mentioned, wants to keep this paternity secret. Patrick is just bowing out. Nadine and Johnny aren't supposed to know. Jax is being the whole logical one, whatever. I thought it was kind of funny and kind of sad at the same time, the point where Carly didn't pick up on Morgan's lie and how it was mentioned that she'd been living this huge one all these years, and so her radar was kind of worn down, and that just struck me as something very plausible, just because Carly's lived her whole life with this little boy coming to her house, knowing that he was her best friend's son, and she couldn't say anything about it, she couldn't do anything, she couldn't love him in that way as Jason's son, so she loved him as Morgan's best friend. And so, you know, I just thought that was something that would be expected or real as far as Carly's reaction goes. Sonny, of course, he's not operating on stupidity. I know that's so super tempting, even for me, to believe. He's operating more on passion and pride, some of his very, you know, ethnic qualities as far as the show used to show, but not so much anymore. Just the whole pride on being a father, on having this son that you created that will carry on your name and your legacy and your family. And he sees Jason as not having that, not ever having that. So when the moment comes up, he's the first one to say, take advantage of this and, you know, correct this mistake. Cameron's shirt, always good for a laugh. It's never lupus. That's kind of his catchphrase. We would have seen him saying it a lot more, but I edited out a lot of the hospital scenes just because they were kind of cumbersome, kind of but yeah, that's kind of his catchphrase. It's a throwback to House, MD, good program. Everyone should watch that because Hugh Laurie is awesome. And let's see, Liz not being able to donate her marrow, that was actually, I needed some way for her not to be able to donate marrow, for her to be a match but not be able to do it because I needed Michael to do it. So I just looked it up, and we know from the show that she has high blood pressure, especially during her pregnancies. So I just made up that she never took medication for it because it wasn't a serious life concern, and so that was that. Let's see. The reveal was actually overshadowed by the fact that Michael was a donor, which was interesting to me, and I'm glad it worked out that way. Just because that's kind of what this whole secret has been about. It's always overshadowed by something. All of the key moments are just, you know, moments where the secret could come out, they're just squashed, wasted. Like even on the show, like the momentum is just negligible and it kills all the impact. So them finding out that Jake knows and has known is kind of secondary to Michael being like, oh my god, I'm gonna save his life, I'm awesome. So that was actually kind of fun to me. Why Michael? I didn't want Jason to do it. I really didn't, because at this point I don't think it would have fixed anything. Like it wouldn't have made Jake all, you know, that about his father suddenly being awesome. He would have also carried this angst about how the father that never wanted him was the one that saved his life, and he had a part of him, even more so, inside of him, and he owed his life to Jason. That was just an ugly, angsty, icky mess that I didn't want to get into. So yeah, I thought it was good the way it played out. I know some people might be frustrated. That's nothing new to me, just because I know that I frustrate people a lot, especially with this one. The story that I swore I'd never write worked out real well. Anyway, so yeah, that's the commentary for the 38th chapter. I hope this video was something kind of fun, kind of different, because it was for me. And who knows, I might be making some more in the future. Thank you to everyone that reads this, and hopefully I'll see you for the commentary on chapter 39. Later.